Hey there, I'm Paul Lancaster. I'm the founder and director of a company called Plan Digital. And in this shortish presentation, I'm going to talk about how to start something new with a focus on startups. So first thing we'll start with is who I am, for anyone that doesn't know. So I'm Paul Lancaster, I'm the founder and director of Plan Digital, but I'm also possibly more well known for running the 5-day Newcastle Startup Week Festival, which usually takes place in May in multiple venues across Newcastle and Gateshead. I've been working in the whole startup world for over 15 years. I've worked for local enterprise agencies, I've worked for youth enterprise schemes, I've worked for the government for a little while, I've worked for large corporates, and then I finally started my own business just over 4 years ago. And my whole business is about helping to inspire, motivate, encourage, signpost, matchmake, and help more people to start or grow their own business. Mostly tech and digital and creative businesses, but basically anyone of any sector can particularly attend the events that I run. They're open to anyone. But this talk is going to touch a little bit more on tech and digital businesses. So yes, so I've been working in the whole startup world for a long time, mostly in the northeast of England, but also working with people all across the UK and some international as well. If you want to follow me, obviously LinkedIn is a good place to get connected, but probably the quickest and easiest way to get in touch and to follow what I'm doing is on Twitter. So I'm known as Lord Lancaster, so at Lord Lancaster. So all day, every day, I'm sharing what I think are useful tips and advice and resources that are aimed at anyone who's thinking about starting a business, has recently started a business, or just wants to learn how to be more innovative and entrepreneurial. So a good place to start is, what do I actually mean by a startup? So I'm going to reference the Lean Startup book by Eric Ries quite a bit. There's a really good definition that he has in the book, which is: a startup is a human institution designed to create a new product or service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. So the key thing here is it's to get you thinking that it can be literally any product or service. People tend to think of the Lean Startup book as being the Bible of tech and digital startup founders, which is true. It does tend to be used a lot by tech and digital businesses, and a lot of the examples in the books do relate to Silicon Valley and tech and web-based businesses. But a lot of the principles can be used by any sector, and the key things to think about are the book is basically, if you have an idea and you want to try a new business, a new venture, it's basically an experiment. You don't really know if it's going to work or not. You can plan it. You can have you can base it on experience, some prior insights and knowledge of a particular sector, individually or as part of your team. But until you actually get something out there into the real world, you don't know if it's actually going to work or not. So what the Lean Startup book in particular is very good at is getting you to think about doing small little experiments, little iterations to test your assumptions and see if what you think people are interested in are actually going to work. But a startup generally is a very uncertain thing. There's no guarantees that what you set out to do are going to work, and quite often it might change significantly over the weeks and months ahead into something completely different that you weren't expected based on what the market tells you that they want. But what's interesting as well, obviously because of the COVID situation, when it talks about extreme uncertainty, we're in an even more extremely uncertain world right now, and that has its challenges and its opportunities. You know, so a lot of the things that we thought were certain before are no longer the case. So that is challenging for existing businesses, but also can create some huge opportunities for people who are more innovative and entrepreneurial to come up with new ways of delivering products and services. But you'll notice he doesn't go into any specifics about the type of business, the sector, the size, or the scale of what you're trying to do. Recently, I did a short little video. It's only 11 minutes long, where I do a pretty good little book review of the Lean Startup and some of the key principles held within it. So if you want to check that out, and you haven't had a chance to read it, or even if you have read it and you just want a refresher on what it's all about, the video is worth a watch, I think. So if you go to newcastlestartupweek.com/blog, it's a brand new blog that's just been published on there at the time of doing this. So 2 videos to help you start something new. So there's an 11-minute video about the Lean Startup, and there's also a longer video, a discussion about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which some of you might have heard of as well, which could help you. But the key principles that I talk about here is the idea that the Lean Startup is a really good book to reference, because it's all about trying to reduce the amount of time, money, and effort wasted on things that people don't actually want. So again, it goes back to that idea of doing small little experiments, little iterations to see what people actually want. So any business, any sector can adopt these Lean Startup principles. If you try something, if people like it, you do more of it. If they don't like it, you stop and you kill it off, so that you're not wasting time on that. Tech or non-tech. So again, a lot of people kind of feel like you have to have a tech product to have a startup, and that's not necessarily the case. If I think about my own business, Plan Digital, it's primarily a non-tech business. It's we provide inbound marketing and community engagement consultancy. So that's myself doing one-to-one, face-to-face, or remote consultancy, particularly now during COVID. So people will typically come to me because they want advice on how to accelerate the growth of their business through inbound marketing. So blogging, PR, social media, events, networking, online and offline, signposting, matchmaking. That's all things that I can either do directly, or I can advise them on how to do that. And it's all about helping them build audiences online and offline and generate qualified leads for their products and services. So I do use tech and digital products and cloud products to help me do that, but my business is not a tech business. And on top of that, another side to the business are the events that I run. So I run the monthly Founders Friday events, which take place on the last Friday of every month, and also the annual 5-day Newcastle Startup Week Festival, which I mentioned before. So both of them are offline events, but we obviously use tech products and platforms to run that. So I have the website, I use Eventbrite to sell tickets. I've also started using Go Cardless to collect online payments for annual subscriptions, and various other tools to run the business. But it's not, we don't have any unique or bespoke tech that we've paid to develop for the business at the moment. 4 years in, I am now in the process of trying to develop a new tech platform that's going to sit underneath all of the activities that I do, particularly the events. So that's just to say an example of how you can build a business. It doesn't have to be a tech business. It can be a successful business, and then you can add a tech layer to what you're doing further down the line. And I guess when it talks about pros and cons, generally speaking, if you're developing tech products or a platform or an app or a website, it can be expensive. It usually is quite expensive to either bring in the talent into your team, then you have to pay for their salaries, or if you want to bring in an external team to deliver that work for you. Based on all the experience and all the conversations I've had with developers over the years, typically you're looking for an average, this is based on costs in the northeast of England, which tend to be much lower than they are in other parts of the UK and other parts of the world. But and they'll be cheaper, they'll be less expensive elsewhere as well. But for a minimum viable product, so that's the most simple tech product that you can create, you're probably looking at 20 to £30,000 to develop something bespoke that's unique to you and your business with a technical partner. So if you don't have that money already saved up, or you don't have any grants or funding or any investment, then that can be a challenge for a lot of people, particularly if they're non-technical founders and they have to bring in technical expertise to do that. So the key thing is you can generally get started with your business, your startup, a lot faster by using off-the-shelf products and services, and then bringing in a bespoke tech product further down the line, which will be cheaper and quicker than if you're developing something unique for you. But so that's just a key thing to highlight there. Here's an example of how I use lean startup principles to create the 5-day Newcastle Startup Week Festival that I talked about. So I started my business in April 2016, and for the first 6 months or so, I was doing consultancy work, and that was going pretty well. But I had an idea for a big event. I thought, what Newcastle and the northeast of England really needed was a big event that was going to shine a light on all the great support that was available to help people start and grow businesses. I also thought it needed something that would attract talent, retain talent, bring some investors into the region, and basically just create that entrepreneurial spirit that was already kind of happening, but in small pockets. And I wanted to bring it all together under one umbrella. So I had the idea, and I came up with the name very quickly, Newcastle Startup Week. I like creating, I like naming things in quite obvious ways. It's pretty obvious what it is. It happens in Newcastle. It's all about startups, and it's a week-long event. I came up with the date, and all I did, I created a one-page, a landing page using Typeform, which is an online survey tool. And this was a way for me to validate my ideas and get some, see what the appetite was like for this event, build up a bit of a database of potential delegates who might want to come to the event. So I came up with a name, came up with a date. I didn't have a logo or anything. I just took a photo of the quayside on Newcastle, styled it up using a free app on my mobile phone to create an image on the top, and then put a bit of blurb in there, which kind of hopefully got people interested. So saying, from the world's first light bulb to business software and smart data, Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England has been inventing the future for centuries. Join us on the 15th to the 19th of May 2017 for a citywide multi-venue festival of entrepreneurship and innovation that will help you go from business idea to launch in just 5 days. Please tell us a little bit about yourself so we can build our event around you. So I launched this around about the September 2016 and used it over the next couple of months to collect contact details of people who might be interested. So as well as some basic information like name, email address, contact details, where they lived, asked some questions. How would you describe yourself, your business or project? So was it pre-start? Was it an established business? Different categories to see what the appetite was like from different groups. Who they were, what they were looking for. So were they looking for a job? Were they interested in starting a business? Were they thinking of opening a second office? They were looking for investment, just interested in what was going on in the city, or they were looking for some ideas and inspiration. And then an open-ended question, is there something in particular you need help with to take your business or idea to the next level? Tell us anything, we'll do our best to help. So from that survey, I collected just under 300 responses. And what was really good about that was it went beyond just me thinking it was a good idea, which was based on lots of conversations that I had with people over years and my own experience of the whole startup world. I thought there was the need for this, but it validated my ideas, showed that there was a latent desire for something like this. And from that, I could then start, that gave me confidence to proceed with the idea, but also to start speaking to some potential sponsors and partners and venues. So with the just under 300 contact details, I then started getting some sponsors on board for the event and started booking the events. I created a basic website in WordPress. So I do have some basic web design skills. I'm not a web designer, I'm not a web developer, but I can customize websites. I know enough to do a basic website and some basic design. So WordPress was a really quick and easy way for me to get some web presence for the event. It's changed obviously a lot over the last few years, but this is the current version. This is the homepage and what it's all about. Got a former colleague of mine to design a logo, which is one of the best things that I've done, to pay for a good designer to create a really excellent logo, which people seem to love. And we've got two versions of that because we've got the Newcastle Startup Week event and the Newcastle Scale Up Summit event. And this is what the event turned into. So the first 2 years, we had just over 600 people across the 5 days. And last year, 2019, we had just over 800. So this is what it looked like on day one of Newcastle Startup Week last year. So day one, we call it Inspiration Day. And what better place to hold Inspiration Day than the iconic boiler shop, which is George and Robert Stevenson's former railway steam engine factory. So this is where the world's first locomotive steam engine factory was. Very iconic, very symbolic that arguably the beginning of the railway industry and the Industrial Revolution happened right here on Tyneside in Newcastle. And we were trying to kickstart a new entrepreneurial revolution here in the city and the region as well. So this day is all about inspiring people, motivating people, geeing people up, getting people excited. And it's a real broad cross-section of people. We have everyone from pre-start, early stage startup business owners, established business owners, corporates, business advisors, investors, lawyers, accountants, you name it. It's kind of the whole ecosystem all comes together on that one day, Inspiration Day, to be inspired. And then on the subsequent days 2 to 5, we go into more specific niche subjects depending on what stage you're at. So day 2 is the getting started day, the practical first steps to starting a business. Day 3 is the funding and finance days. So where's the money to start or grow a business? Day 4 is growing and scaling. And then day 5 is keep going or pivot. So very early on, I decided that they were the 5 key themes that all entrepreneurs and business owners or business startups would go through. The inspiration, the launch of the business, the funding of the business, the growth of the business, and then the review phase. So again, using the lean startup principles to that constant idea of build, measure, learn. So you create something, you measure what the impact is like, and then you review it. So across the 5 days, people would go through all the different stages and have a really good overview of what was required to start and grow a business. Last year, although the primary audience of the event is the Northeast, we have done a really good job of getting people from all across the UK. So you'll see here quite a lot of people from Scotland, Northwest, Yorkshire, Midlands, South Coast, London. Also managed to attract people from the US, from South America, Scandinavia, France, Germany, Switzerland, Romania, Azerbaijan, some from India, some from Pakistan, some from Australia, which is amazing that people are traveling from that far away because we're offering something here that they can't get in their local area. So my next thing I want to talk about is positive triggers. So this is something that I think is really important when you're starting a business or a new product or a service. So in my experience, a lot of people will start a business or make a major change in their career when something negative happens to them. So they might lose a job, they might hate the boss or the colleagues. They might unfortunately get ill, or someone may die. A relationship might end. Um, Something bad will often happen that will force them to make a change. Um, Now, that can be the incentive that they need to do that, but my theory is that the problem with that is, if you're starting a business or anything new, when you're at a weak point, when you might be feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, or financially weak, it's even harder for you to make that new thing a success. It's not to say it's impossible, but starting a business or any new venture is hard anyway. But if you're at a weak point, it's even harder. So what I've been trying to do through my events, through Newcastle Startup Week and Founders Friday and all the other things that I do all day, every day, have been doing for years, is to give people more positive triggers. So try to give people experiences that are going to encourage them to start something new when they're at a high point. So my thinking is that if you imagine day one, the Newcastle Startup Week event, the Inspiration Day, if you're surrounded by 500, 600, 700, 800 people who are all in that entrepreneurial mindset, and they're all enthusiastic and supportive and positive about starting a business or supporting entrepreneurs, that is a really good environment, a fertile ground for you to start something new. Because a lot of the time, people might not have many friends or family around them who have started their own business. It's still, generally speaking, you're going to be in the minority, depending on where you live. Obviously, some places are much more entrepreneurial than others, but particularly here in Newcastle, in the northeast of England, it's not very typical to be an entrepreneur, to want to start your own business. So it's really important that you surround yourself with lots of like-minded people, either online or offline, and give yourself more positive triggers that are going to increase your chances of being successful. So the type of positive triggers I'm talking about are, I'm just going to touch here on the impact report that we published last year, which was created with Newcastle University. So they did some research into what impact Newcastle Startup Week had on people, if any. Thankfully, we showed that that the event did have a positive impact on people. So here are some stats here. The thing that I was most pleased to see was in the bottom left, you can see the personal impact. So 75% said that they gained valuable new contacts, 82% gained new knowledge or insights, 80% felt more motivated or inspired, and 61% felt more confident after attending Newcastle Startup Week. So people who were already running a business said they were more likely to make contacts and feel more confident, and people starting up were more likely to feel more motivated, and people who were not starting or thinking about starting a business said they were more likely to gain new knowledge or insights on what it took to be entrepreneurial. Okay, so that's a positive. The other thing, in the top right, the business impacts tended to be lower because I guess the majority of the people who were coming to the event tended to be an earlier stage in their business journey. But also, by the time they were surveyed, it was a bit too early to know what impact the event would have on their individual business. But existing business said they were more likely to find new customers or markets, meet collaborators or organizations that could help. And then almost half of those who were not currently thinking about or in the process of starting a business said that as a result of attending the event, they were more likely to start one in the future. But then in the bottom right, regional impact is really, really positive. It says here 75% of the people surveyed said they were more likely to think that Newcastle in the northeast of England had a vibrant business community as a result of attending the Newcastle Startup Week event. And 66% said they were more likely to think that Newcastle or the northeast was a good place to start a business. And 60% were more likely to think it was a good place to grow a business as well. So these are really, really positive stats off the back of the event, and shows that the value of running events like this, and why it's important that people get behind it. Some books, some other positive triggers. I mean, I've read loads of books. You can see behind me, I've got a bookcase it's full of business books, books on startups, books on leadership, and a lot of books on personal development, leadership, mindset as well. I'm getting really into philosophy as well. That's my, and spirituality as well. That's quite a new thing for me. But these are two books that really I would recommend everybody reads. So the Lean Startup, we've already talked about that before. I would encourage everybody to read that, or at least watch the video that I mentioned earlier before. Doesn't matter what sector you're in. And the good thing about this book is the way it's structured is it makes more sense. Different sections make more sense depending on what stage you're at in your business. So the opening chapter just introduces the whole Lean Startup principles and the whole thinking behind Lean Startup methodology. And but then the early chapters straight after that tend to be aimed at pre-start, very early stage businesses who are just experimenting and trying to figure out what people are interested in. Then the middle sections are, okay, you've hit on a bit of success here. How do you refine that? He talks about the engines of growth, so figuring out what's working the best, because a lot of the time people will try and do lots and lots of different things all at the same time. They're not quite sure what's working. So the middle sections are how to refine that and make it a much more streamlined process. And then the later chapters again are for even later stage businesses, how to keep that kind of innovative culture going to keep the business continuing to survive and thrive, and continuing to adapt as the markets change. Then the second book, Started Up, is by Luke Johnson, who's a serial entrepreneur and an investor who he's done all kinds of amazing things. He was I think he was the chairman, or maybe the founder, definitely the chairman of Pizza Express and Patisserie Valerie, lots of food businesses, restaurant businesses, cafe businesses, and this is aimed at the individual. So getting you thinking about why actually starting a business is a lot easier than you think it is. So I'd encourage everyone to read that book as well. Talked about obviously the events that I run, but this is something new that we've just created. We've just created a new YouTube channel for Newcastle Startup Week. So in the past, we've deliberately not filmed any of the talks, because I think there's a lot more value in people actually attending the event in person, because it's not just what happens on stage, it's what happens off stage as well. The conversations that you have in the corridors, during breaks, and the networking events, the after parties. There's a lot of energy and excitement that comes from gathering amongst other like-minded people. But this year, due to COVID, we had to pivot and we had to run the event as an online event through our private Facebook group. So we've got over 80 videos now on the YouTube channel. You can go on there and you can watch all the talks from this year's event in May, plus a lot of talks from some of our keynote speakers from last year's event, and some book reviews, which I mentioned before. And there'll be lots of other videos that we're going to continue to put on there. So I'd encourage everyone, if you're watching this, to just go on YouTube, search Newcastle Startup Week, 3 words, and subscribe to it as well. And then as soon as a new video goes up, you'll be notified of that. And I think you'll get a lot of inspiration and ideas from what's being shared on there. Podcasts as well. Here are the current shows that I'm subscribed to. So I get a lot of ideas and inspiration from some podcasts. There's a bit of a mixed bag here. Brittany Crystal in the top left, she developed the personal online brand for people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tom Bilyeu, Marie Forleo, which a lot of you might have heard of. Derek Sivers, he's a creative entrepreneur. He was a musician, but he built a business called CD Baby, which he created himself, built and sold that for 20 million. And he writes about how he sees the world and how he thinks completely different to a lot of other people. He's a really inspirational guy. Eat, Sleep, Work, Repeat. Some other stuff here, more sort of general interest, Louis Theroux, Tom Bilyeu. The Industry Angel podcast by Ian Farrer. A lot of podcasts tend to be not based in the UK or not based in the north of England. So I really love the fact that Ian has got some amazing interviews on there with UK and US based entrepreneurs on a range of topics about entrepreneurship, marketing, personal development. So I encourage everyone to check out that. Some of the spirituality type stuff. Reid Hoffman, one of the founders of LinkedIn, he's got some amazing interviews with some key Silicon Valley founders there. My own Super Connector podcast, again, got some great interviews with some Northeast based entrepreneurs about the kind of what it's like to start and grow a business and the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. And Stephen Bartlett, the co-founder and CEO of Social Chain, who actually was a keynote speaker at Newcastle Startup Week last year. Amazing guy. I think he's only 27 now. Millionaire CEO of Europe's hottest social media agency. Very personal kind of podcast where he talks about, again, the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out. Loads of events. Again, this is very Newcastle Northeast focused, but there's a website called techdiary.co.uk, and this is kind of the main place to go to find out about tech and digital focused events, mostly free, that take place across the Northeast, primarily in Newcastle, but all over the Northeast. So Tech Diary is a great resource. There might be some similar resources in your local town or city. Eventbrite is a great place to find events that are going on around you, and meet up as well. I'm always surprised when people don't go to events, because events are a great way to grow your network, to be inspired, to learn something new, and like I say, just to be surrounded by similar like-minded people who you otherwise might not get to hang out with. And a lot of the events tend to happen either early morning or late night. So there's often some drinks or some food provided for you to attend. So I'd encourage people to get out and see who's out there. Some are more techy than others. I tend to be more interested in the more business and marketing focused ones, but I do like going to some of the more techy ones as well, because I have the ability to talk to techies and non-techies. Talked about Newcastle Startup Week before. I can say normally this is an annual 5-day event that we run in May. This year we had to pivot and move it online. So the next physical event now isn't due to take place until May 2021. But in the meantime, what we've done is we've created a new online community. So what we're encouraging people to do now is, instead of buying tickets for individual events, is to become an annual member of our new Startup Week community or online community. And for just £75 a year for 12 months, what they get is access to our private Facebook group. So every day of the week, Monday to Friday in particular, there's different content being shared along the 5 themes of Startup Week. There are useful tips and advice. There's useful resources. There's special offers, deals and discounts to products and services related to startups. There's exclusive interviews. And we're also running the events through the Facebook group as well. So the Startup Week event that we ran in May was all ran through our private Facebook group. And we also, the Founders Friday events that we were running on the last Friday of every month, they are now running through the private Facebook group as well. So always on the last Friday of every month. You get to hang out with other like-minded entrepreneurs online. There's a really nice supportive community in there. The other thing as well, Tribes, I mentioned before that this new tech platform that I'm developing is going to be called Tribes. So this is a new matchmaking signposting platform that's going to speed up the process from idea to launch to growth to investment, helping you build a niche network around your idea, your product, your service, your business, and pull together all the information about what you're trying to do and match you up with all the people that you need to take your ideas forward. So if you join the Startup Week community for just £75, you get access to all of this. You get immediate access to the private Facebook group, all the resources on there. You get access to the Founders Friday events. You get free entry to day 1 of Newcastle Startup Week in May. and you also get priority access to the Tribes platform when that goes live, and we are aiming to have that go live in May 2021 as well. So if you're interested in that, if you go to newcastlestartupweek.com, you can find out about it on the homepage, or newcastlestartupweek.com/community, where it lists all of the benefits of becoming a member. And anybody can join this. It doesn't matter where you're based. You don't just have to be in Newcastle or the Northeast to join this, with it being online. And we are getting people from other parts of the UK and even other parts of the world joining that community now. So I encourage you to be part of that. Lastly, just want to finish, if anyone does want to know more about any of the things that I've talked about today, feel free to send me a message through LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. I do get a lot of connection requests on LinkedIn, so it's always useful if you send me a little message first, so I've got a bit of an idea of why you want to connect, or particularly if you say that you've watched this presentation and you wanted to connect off the back of it, that's really useful to know, because otherwise it can take a while to go through to see who I actually want to connect with and who I might not want to. But if you send me a nice little note about why you want to connect, then that makes it a lot easier for me, and I can help you faster, particularly if you tell me what you need. So, and then we talked about Twitter as well, obviously at Lord Lancaster. This is probably the quickest and fastest way to get in touch with me, faster than even email. So yeah, send me a tweet, send me a message, or just follow to see the sort of stuff that I'm sharing on there, because I am all day, every day sharing what I think are useful resources for anyone starting or growing a business. And then the final thing, this is quite a new thing for me, I suppose, is just starting to actually use Instagram properly. But unlike Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, Instagram, I'm using it more to share, I guess, more behind the scenes content. So kind of, so you can get a bit closer to me as an entrepreneur, and the type of things that inspire me and motivate me, and kind of the books I'm reading, the places I'm going to, my thoughts on entrepreneurship as well. So again, just like Twitter, Instagram is at Lord Lancaster. So check that out, particularly if you like pretty pictures of bridges and beautiful parts of Newcastle in the Northeast, but also share a lot of information on the type of books that I'm reading, the places that I'm going to, things that inspire me and hopefully might inspire you too, and some of my videos as well. So I hope that's been useful to anyone watching this, and I look forward to hearing what you think. Feel free to leave a comment below the video, subscribe to the Newcastle Startup Week YouTube channel, and I hope to see you in the Startup Week community, or at the physical Newcastle Startup Week event in May. Okay, thanks a lot.